Marvin Gaye, known as one of the most influential figures in soul and Motown music. He rose to fame in the 1960s with hits like Ain't No Mountain High Enough and I Heard It Through the Grapevine. In the 1970s, he shifted to more personal and political music, especially with his groundbreaking album What's Going On, which addressed war, poverty, and social injustice. Here is his story. Marvin Pence Gaye Jr. was born on April 2, 1939 in Washington, D.C., to church minister Marvin Gaye Sr. and domestic worker Alberta Gaye, née Cooper. His childhood was difficult. His father was physically and emotionally abusive, which left lasting scars. Music became a refuge. Marvin started singing in church at a young age and later joined several doo-wop groups as a teenager. Despite family struggles, his talent stood out early, and by the late 1950s, he was already pursuing music professionally. Marvin Gaye Sr. was known for being strict, controlling, and often violent, enforcing harsh discipline under the guise of religious authority. Despite the household tension, his mother Alberta recognized his talent early and tried to protect and encourage him. Marvin was very close to her, and she remained a strong figure in his life. During his teenage years, he started rebelling against his father's strict religious rules, developing his own identity, style, and musical ambition. His father would kick him out of the house often. Eventually, during one of their many confrontations, his father forced him out of the house for good. Marvin later described it as both painful and liberating. Although it was a traumatic moment, it gave him the push he needed to chase his dreams beyond Washington, D.C. He moved in with Harvey Fuqua, a member of the Moonglows, who became both a mentor and a gateway into the professional music world. Fuqua took Marvin to Detroit, where he would later sign with Motown Records and begin his rise to fame. In 1958, a young Marvin Gaye joined a version of the Moonglows called Harvey and the Moonglows. He briefly performed with them before disbanding. 2 years later, Gaye moved to Detroit with Fuqua, where he signed with Tri-Fi Records as a session musician. He performed at Motown president Berry Gordy's house during the holiday season. Impressed, Gordy sought Fuqua on his contract with Gaye. Shortly afterwards, Gaye signed with Motown subsidiary Tamla. His debut album, The Soulful Moods of Marvin Gaye, 1961, featured jazz and pop standards. It didn't sell well, but it was a start. His breakthrough came soon after with early hits like Stubborn Kind of Fellow, 1962, where he embraced a more upbeat soul sound. In the mid-60s, Gaye had become a household Motown name mostly, singing songs given to him by Motown staff writers. Gaye began collaborating with Smokey Robinson, with which he scored his first career million-selling singles, I'll Be Doggone and Ain't That Peculiar, which hit #1 on the R&B charts and crossed over to the top 10 of the Billboard Hot 100 in 1965. He also had considerable success as a duet partner with the likes of Kim Weston, Diana Ross, and Tammy Terrell. Ain't No Mountain High Enough, with Tammy Terrell, became one of Motown's biggest ever hits. Marvin called her his musical soulmate, and their chemistry on stage and in the studio was electric and genuine. Marvin said Tammy was like the sister I never had. We were soulmates. In October 1967, Terrell collapsed in Gaye's arms during a performance in Farmville, Virginia. She had complained about severe headache but continued to perform nonetheless. It turned out she had brain cancer. Over the next few years, her health declined. Marvin visited her often and supported her through multiple surgeries. Sadly, she passed away in March 1970 at only 24 years old. Her death devastated Marvin and plunged him into a deep depression. He withdrew from performing for a time and questioned the meaning of his music and fame. In late 1968, Gaye's recording of I Heard It Through the Grapevine became his first to reach #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. It also reached the top of the charts in other countries, selling over 4 million copies. But Gaye wasn't happy. He felt like he didn't deserve the success. He felt trapped in the Motown factory. He wanted to write and explore his own style. In 1970, Gaye wrote the song What's Going On. The song was a call for empathy and awareness of suffering, especially from the perspective of a returning soldier witnessing problems at home. It dealt with issues such as injustice and police brutality. Berry Gordy refused its release due to his feelings of the song being too political for Motown. Gaye responded by deciding against releasing any other new material before the label released it. 1 year later, he released the album with the same name, an album that dealt with social issues such environmental damage like On Mercy Mercy Me, The Ecology, and a cry against poverty and systemic injustice in inner city blues. Widely considered one of the greatest albums of all time, it also triggered other artists such as Stevie Wonder to create his own sound and to deal with sensitive, socially conscious topics. In August 1973, Gaye released the album Let's Get It On's. It marked a shift from the socially conscious themes dealing with sensuality, desire, and emotion instead. It was one of the first albums to treat sex and intimacy in a direct, soulful, and artistic way, influencing countless artists and the genre of soul music itself. The album was a commercial and critical success, going platinum and cementing Marvin's status as a soul legend. Gaye's next studio album, I Want You, followed in March 1976 with the title track I Want You reaching #1 on the R&B charts. The album would go on to sell over 1 million copies. It had a smooth sound influenced by funk, soul, and disco. I Want You reflects Marvin's complex emotional state during the mid-70s, both passionate and vulnerable. He struggled with both depression and substance abuse, and it worsened. Marvin Gaye, who married Anna Gordy in 1963, Berry Gordy's elder sister, 17 years his senior. By 1977, their marriage was falling apart. Their turbulent marriage later served as inspiration for Gaye's studio album, Here My Dear. She played a significant role in Marvin's early career, helping him navigate the music industry and supporting his growth as an artist. Their marriage was passionate but also complicated by personal struggles, including Marvin's rising fame, emotional issues, and infidelity on both sides. The album itself performed badly. Marvin had ongoing tax problems and debts. The IRS pursued him aggressively, leading to his self-imposed exile in Europe to avoid paying. He lived mainly in Belgium, but also spent time in London and Switzerland. During this period, being away from the US music scene made it harder for him to maintain his superstar status. Personal issues, including failed relationships and health problems, worsened during his time abroad, and the financial pressures were constant even in Europe. Despite difficulties, he maintained his passion for music and tried to regain control over his career. He returned to the United States in the early 1980s. At the time, he was married to his second wife, Janice Hunter, but their marriage also ended in divorce in 1982. Together, they had one child, Nona Gaye. Marvin aimed to revitalize his career after years of personal and financial troubles abroad. He began working on new music, trying to reconnect with his audience in the changing music scene. In 1982, he released the album Midnight Love, which included his massive hit Sexual Healing, his first big success in years and one of his signature songs. He continued to face emotional and mental health issues, including depression. Reports indicate that Marvin had a history of suicidal thoughts and attempts during periods of intense emotional pain. His relationships remained turbulent, especially with his father. In August 1983, Gaye moved in with his parents to nurse his mother, who was recovering from kidney surgery, a home which he bought for them in 1973. His relationship with his father was still strained. For the next 6 months, the two men struggled to keep their distance from one another. During one quarrel at the house, the elder Gaye called police to have his son leave the property. On Christmas Day 1983, Gaye gave his father a Smith & Wesson .38 special pistol so that he could protect himself from intruders. Marvin was often suicidal and paranoid, rarely leaving his room. On April 1, 1984, Gaye's parents had arguments mainly over misplaced bills. Marvin told his father to leave his mother alone. Marvin Sr. instead charged upstairs to the bedroom to verbally attack Alberta over the document, causing Gaye to jump out of his bed and once again order his father out of the room. Eventually, after years of abuse and arguments, he had enough, pushing and kicking his father out in the hallway. Minutes later, Marvin Sr. entered his bedroom, returning with the .38 pistol his son had bought him, pointed it at Gaye and shot him directly in the heart. Marvin was rushed to the hospital but was pronounced dead shortly after. He was only 44 years old. The music industry had lost one of its legends. Marvin Gaye remains one of the most influential and beloved figures in soul, R&B, and popular music history. His artistry, voice, and messages continue to inspire generations of musicians and fans worldwide. Marvin's willingness to tackle difficult topics paved the way for socially conscious music in popular culture. He was inducted posthumously into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, 1987. A whole generation of artists cites Marvin Gaye and an influence. Marvin Gaye's story also serves as a powerful reminder of the complex human behind the star, his struggles with family, mental health, and fame.